Well, hello, Joe.
Hey, how are you, Mike?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell our listeners who you are if they haven't happened to have come across you online yet.
Well, sure thing. My name is Joe Williams. I'm a multi-store pharmacy owner in North Carolina, and kind of by happenstance, I've been called the inventory guru. I've been called the efficient operations guy. I've got all these different nicknames, but basically, who I am is I'm the primary consultant or the founding consultant of Indy RX Consulting. We're just a small pharmacy consulting business that tries to work with owners and operators and just pharmacists in general to make their stores run smoother and try to take as much pressure off of them and try to maximize different, more efficient models within their stores.
Okay, so operations, those get to be some tough things, but the tougher things are dealing with these things we call humans. And do you get to avoid that with your consulting, or are you stuck sometimes with them being part of the operations? Because I hate dealing with humans a lot of times.
Well,
I mean, God knows I hate dealing with me too. So
yeah, no. Human. I have a great friend. We were talking this morning, and we had this thing. We said that people are both the best and worst part of being a pharmacy owner or operator, right?
Yeah.
So if it weren't for them, we couldn't do it.
Right.
My focus tends to be the people that I tend to spend the most time with when I'm working in a store is either the owner, some sort of an operations manager, the pharmacist in charge, staff pharmacist, or maybe they have a subset of techs that are like their superstar techs. Because, see, what I do is my goal is to work myself out of a job with every client that hires me. Honestly.
Gotcha.
And I tell them that from the get-go. You know, I tend to spend your money like it's mine.
Sure.
And so when we sign on, I want to know what your goals of the call are, and then we're going to jump right into it and we're going to get to work. And it's not going to be Joe fixing every little thing that's wrong with your store. It's going to be Joe teaching you fundamental principles and talking you through my logic of why this needs to be this way and why this needs to look like this. And my favorite part of every call that I have is that aha moment, and you'll hear it. This was yesterday. No, today's Thursday. This was Tuesday. I was on the call, and there was a team of people that I was working with at the same time remotely because of COVID, and I heard the oh. And when I heard that in the background, I got so excited because I just realized that this person now was going to be able to teach that entire staff around them exactly what had just occurred in their brains. And so, you know, I'll get on with an owner. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? Some of them have been pioneer users since day one, years and years ago. This morning, I helped someone who had only been using the Pioneer software for about 2 months. And I tend to focus just on Pioneer users just because that's what I'm most efficient at, and I feel like I can provide the greatest level of return for those client stores.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
And so this lady this morning, 2 months in, our call was extremely different for someone who'd been a user for 2 months than a user who's been on Pioneer for 5 or 7 years.
Sure.
Because they're at different places. And that's one of the things that I offer. Everything that we do for our clients is catered to their store. This is not a canned method of every store is exactly the same and it's going to be that way. Mike, you own a store. When you and I did this the other day on another video, you do things very differently than I do. It doesn't mean that yours is wrong or mine is right or yours is right. It just means we do them differently. So I can take any systems that are in place in a pharmacy right now and I can make them help that owner and teach that owner how to make those processes more efficient.
How many calls are you on with a typical client for a typical job? I mean, I know somebody might call you again in 6 months, but how many calls are you on? Or is it one call, or is it like 3 calls like a week apart, or what?
No. It depends on the store, and it depends on the owner. So I get some owners that they'll walk in and they'll say, listen, I just got this system. I know nothing about it. I need you to make me better. So first I want to understand all of these things. You know, how can I do these things? That was kind of how the call went this morning. And so I took that owner in a 2-hour session what it probably took me 6 months to learn working. Okay.
Gotcha.
So that's what I try to provide. I tell folks that most owners, whether they'll agree with me or not, they have more money than they do time.
Yeah.
And so the time is their most valuable asset. And if I
Right.
can, for the little bit of money that's required to get me together with them, and the only reason I even charge is so that I can justify taking myself away from my own stores, is so that they can get ahead of the curve where it takes others 4 to 6 months to figure out.
So that's usually with one call.
So the intro call is like the fundamentals of whatever it is their goal is.
Okay.
So if you said to me, Mike, like if you called me Mike, and it was our last call was about deliveries that we did on the Facebook group, and it was, we would have spent 2 hours, and I would have taken you entirely through the whole delivery model, soup to nuts, how to do this, how to do that, the whole 9 yards. Then after the call, I'll send you out basically a workbook that explains in further detail and drills all the way down so that you can hand that to your technicians, to your cashiers, to everybody, and say, this is how we do this now.
Gotcha.
And then you can implement that through the staff. And then after that call, I'm kind of bold in this. I just put myself out there. So my direct contact information is on everything. So if you have a call, or have a question, or there's any questions about those detailed documents, you just give me a call or just shoot me an email. I don't even charge for that because it's usually like a 5-minute thing. And again, I do this just to justify helping folks, taking myself away from my own businesses.
Right.
So they can call me or email me. I'll answer those. Now, if it's been a month and they're calling me 4 times a week,
right,
it's time to schedule another session. Let's sit back down. Let's put all this stuff back together, and we'll go again. So far the way that it's gone, and I didn't start doing these virtually until COVID. I've always done this on site. So I would.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I would fly to a store, or I would drive to a store if it was within driving distance, and I would spend a day or two there. Like I'd go in and do an inventory overhaul. I would go in, and in 2 days, I can take a store from no inventory system, just complete chaos, doesn't make any sense at all, to a perpetual inventory system that buys smarter and saves the store money and reduces their cost of goods in 2 days.
When you're talking to someone, and probably some people like it differently, like if I was doing something, I typically, if I think I might be able to understand it, I typically want to know the process that got me there. So in the future, I can maybe make some changes and so on. But is some of this stuff like you're physically setting it up and they don't really, almost like calling like the Pioneer Help, how they go in and do this and that, and they don't explain everything. They just say, we'll get this working for you. Are you doing that for setup, or are you like teaching them the whole process?
They do. So my goal is I tell store or operators, I said, all right, I'm gonna let you drive. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm just the navigator that's sitting over.
So they're doing it actually.
Exactly. I try not to. The only time that you'll catch me doing it is if we've ran overtime, and I don't, unless I just don't like you, I'm not going to charge you if we go over the scheduled time by a little bit. If I'm like, all right, we got to just finish this last little bit, so I'm going to do it real quick. And so I'll knock out some last minute stuff. But for the most part, I'm sitting back and I'm going, all right, do you know how to build a category? Because we're going to need a category for this kind of stuff that you want.
Gotcha.
They say no. All right, go to this, go to this, go to this. And then I sit there and I say, okay, this is how all of this works. This is how all of this ties in. This is why you do this. This is why you do that. And it's not just, hey, I'm going to get this working for you. Because again, my goal is to work them out of a job. Next time they need to build a category, it doesn't need to be, I need to book a session with Joe. It's, I'm going to create a category. I'm going to go build a trigger. I'm going to go, adjust my pricing model, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What's the worst personality that you either could coach, consult, or have on your team? Which kind of personality drives you nuts?
We've always done it that way. I get that a lot, and they don't want to adjust to anything that I'm teaching them. Or two,
and is sometimes this the person that actually hired you doing this?
The one that is paying me is
the one
telling
that's paying
me that,
you is saying,
yes,
this is how we do it.
Or probably my least favorite is, that's not going to work here. And I get that I get that more than I get anything, because I've done this with stores that are doing like 40, like the store that I'm sitting in right now. When I bought it, it was doing like 70 a day, let's say. Well, it does more than 600 a day now.
Is this Branson?
Yeah, this is Branson. And so I've done it in stores that have done like 40 a day and set them up. I've done it in stores that are cash only and don't even want me to look at their pharmacy stuff. They only care about their retail side.
Gotcha.
I've done it in stores that do 1,500 prescriptions a day, and my system works in all of them. And so, and it's because again, those two stores are alike. So we make the necessary tweaks and changes to adjust to them, and then some, it's an all-out, completely custom setup for that store. Like,
so the person says we've always done it that way. Do you ever just say, I'm out of here?
So I say that I will do that eventually, but honestly, what I do is I have these things, I call them golden nuggets, and I hang on to them, or Easter eggs, however you want to talk about them. And I had this guy that I couldn't finish a sentence, and he was like, "That's not going to work. That's not going to work." I said, "Okay, just wait a second."
Right.
And I said, "I'm going to show you something." And I built something that probably made him 10 grand in about a minute. I said, this. And I just kind of took over.
Yeah.
And I said, I just paid for myself for as many sessions as you want to have with me.
Yeah.
Now stop what you're saying and listen to me. And he's like, okay, all right. What else you got? But then the problem with him after that is every time I'd start talking, he's like, when are you going to do something else like that again? I'm like, listen, man,
you gave him
you can't make everybody happy, unfortunately.
You gave him the everlasting gobstopper up front, and then that was your...
No, there's more. That's one of them. Yeah, I've got some. I went in one store, and this was an on-site, and I found $500,000 of lost annual revenue before lunch the first day I was there.
Wow.
So yeah, no, it's every single store you're going to go into is differently. The thing is like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. So if you've always done it that way, and that's just looked like that, and you really haven't thought much about it, well, then you don't realize that something's not right there.
Right.
And then some store owners, I see some, and they're the best pharmacists. They're 100 times better than me as a pharmacist. Like they know more about therapy considerations. They know more about
Story
everything.
of my life.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
And that's just my customers.
Right. But they don't know how to manage a lemonade stand, quite frankly.
Right.
And so the ones that will call me and they will just say, hey, listen, I love taking care of my patients. I love doing this. I love doing that. My store is great. And I've had them say, but I think I'm doing well despite myself. So I want you to help me and teach me. And those are my favorites because they recognize what their strengths are, and they recognize that, they may have a few shortcomings there, and they're like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And they don't try to change what I tell them. They're like, I say, okay, here's what you should focus on initially because you've got to walk before you can run. So I want you to start doing this and this and this and this. And sometimes it's just fundamental things. Like, it might be call my friend Benjamin Jolly and let him get your DIRs plugged in.
Sure.
And then circle back with me a little while later, and I'll show you a lot of operational things that you can use those for and how you can benefit from them. You know, there's any number of things that we may do, but those people are my favorites because they're bright, intelligent, hardworking people. They just need some help in some key areas, and you can make small, subtle changes in a store like that, and you can just see those stores climb up and do super, super well.
You can see them take off because they're so open to it.
Absolutely.
How long would you put up with that if that was one of your employees?
Well, with my employees?
Yeah.
Oh no! That just
really.
Doesn't.
That's not going to fly.
Like less than a second in
3
one of
seconds,
my stores.
Yeah.
I put a lot on the line when I bought my first store, and I put a lot on the line every day. This is the way that I see it. I put a lot on the line every day to provide a safe, secure, happy work environment for all of my employees and a good place to take care of my patients. And so if it's my employee and you don't trust and believe what I say and it's not going to be the way that I want it, then you just don't fit in here, unfortunately. I do everything that I can to look after you and to make sure that you are taken care of. And if you're not going to do things my way, well, I'm sure that the good folks at Walmart and Walgreens and wherever else will let you do things however you want to in their stores. You should go try that there.
All right, Joe. So you come into Branson, and the store's like 100 years old, right?
Right, it is, yeah.
All right. You come in, some young punk that just got his pharmacy degree, his MBA. You walk in, here's the new owner, and you've got some of the baggage. You've got these old ladies and these old guys that have been doing stuff forever. Was that day one? Did they know, like, this is how we do things? Or did you have to grow into that of saying, you know what, this is bullcrap. I've dealt with this now for 6 months and I'm the owner. Did you know from the first day that you were like, this is it?
So let me tell you how that went. Yeah, so I remember this really well because when I came here, there was only 2 staff members, and one had been here for more than 30 years.
Just 2?
That was 70 a day.
Yeah, all right, gotcha.
Yeah. So they had 2 staff members, and one was a part-time tech, and the other was a 30-plus year employee. Okay, well, maybe it wasn't 30 at the time, but it's well over 30 now. And the 30-plus year employee pretty much ran the store. I mean, she did. And I did get a lot of this is how we do this here. and I said, okay. And I had worked. I worked I didn't go to pharmacy school till I was 27, so I had a career before pharmacy school in management. My undergrad is in business too.
Oh, gotcha.
So I had worked for a multi-billion-dollar company, a retailer, and I can say it on here, I guess, can I? I worked for Walgreens as a store manager.
Oh, you did?
That's what led me to go to pharmacy school. So,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, when I graduated from college, I was recruited into their management training program, worked my way up. I was a store manager in less than 2 years. And I had 43 employees at the store that I was running when I stepped down to go to pharmacy school.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I made a lot of HR mistakes on their dime.
Gotcha.
You know, so when I was what they called an MGT or an assistant manager and even an executive assistant, they would bounce us from store to store. So I knew what it felt like to go be the new manager at a store.
Yeah.
And so when I came in and I'd made the mistake, like I was like you described, that young cocky guy right straight out of college when I went into that first store and the second store. And
the ones that you owned.
No, this was at Walgreens. When I was assistant manager,
gotcha.
I was that young cocky. I'm still that young cocky guy now, I like to think. But, it was worse when I was 22 at Walgreens. But
and your hair's nicer now because
it is. I grew it out. Yeah.
You had an army cut back then.
Yeah, I had a flat top.
I get those too.
Yeah, I did. So growing it out was a good decision.
But you look better than last week though.
Oh yeah, last week was
during
rough.
the COVID.
It was terrible. But but when I came here, I did get this is how we do this. And so this is what I did, honestly, Mike. I had this spiral-bound calendar. I started my sync program day one, and I started developing my method for ordering day one as an owner. The previous location I worked at, the owner, he didn't focus as much on those things as I wanted to because, it was my money now. And so I had this whole model that I started building on paper from day one. And I would write down my daily volume. I didn't have Pioneer then. I had another operating system. And so the reporting wasn't as good. So I just did a lot of stuff on paper. And I kept track of all my fills. I mean, I remember days filling like 22 prescriptions, 19 prescriptions, scared to death, waking up at 3 in the morning with chest pains, not going to be able to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And I did it their way, as she said, for a few months, 3 months, because I was trying to get acquainted with the town. I knew how valuable, her name is Miss Brenda, how valuable Miss Brenda was to me. And she knew everybody, their mama, their grandmother, their child, their grandchild, everybody. She knew everybody. So I needed to make sure that I had a great relationship with her. And I didn't want to come in and make her feel like what she thought, what she did didn't matter. Because she wanted to see the store succeed. She'd been there so long.
Yeah.
They've just been doing it a different way for a long time. And I remember in April, that I bought it in January, that April,
What year is this, Joe?
2015.
2015. Okay.
Yeah. So that April, I said, it's my time. It's my store. I'm going to start doing it the way that I want to do it. We grew by 50% within 3 months.
All right. What did Miss Brenda say during that conversation? Or didn't you tell? Or didn't you tell her?
No, she saw it. She saw it happening.
Yeah.
And she didn't respond. Initially, she was like, I don't know about this. People are not going to like this, Joe. People don't like this. People don't like this. And I'm like, no, Miss Brenda, this is how we're going to do it. And then I went through those growing pains because Miss Brenda and I and the part-time tech that we had, she went off to college. So we replaced her, and then we just kept adding.
Yeah.
And I did have that revolving door.
Sure.
There for a little while as we would go through these growth phases, because the thing about growing as fast as we grew was you would go from overstaffed to significantly understaffed overnight.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have enough support.
Exactly.
And then too, I'm the kind of guy because I'm a cash flow. All I care about is cash flow.
Yeah.
Because if you got good cash flow, the profits will be there. And,
sure.
And so I would wait until it was like the train was starting to rock back and forth on the tracks and it was going to tilt any time, and then I'd bring somebody else in. And so that
gotcha.
Miss Brenda did have to have, and I still do that to this day because we keep growing. The store has never stopped growing. But she has to be patient with me at those times, and she's still here. She still runs my front end. I tell her how much I appreciate her and how none of this has been possible without her. I mean, I give her that credit.
For our listeners, and Joe mentioned that we were talking the other night about deliveries and so on a Facebook group thing, and you had mentioned that your lovely lady that takes care of
that's her
bi-monthly billing, and it's like we all know in pharmacy that you don't want to get overrun by people by any means, but all the stuff you just talked about Miss Brenda and knowing people and all that, there's really tenderness there that you've got to work around to be successful. Not to be a floor mat by any means, but to know know how all that puzzle fits together.
Right, yeah. And so in our case, there's technology that could replace some of the things that we're doing. And Ms. Brenda's like, no, I want to do it this way. And she comes in 2 hours early on those days of the month and does it with a smile on her face. So, one day, whenever she claims she's going to retire, I've told her she can't. But if she ever did, then we would roll technology into that somehow. But no. If it weren't for her, and if it weren't for the relationships with the customers that she would introduce me to, and they would introduce me to those additional family members, the store never would have grown. It just never would have. It was like it was a good, perfect storm of being patient and just making sure that we focused on those patients as she would bring them along. And then eventually I would introduce the technology and the new programs and all those things. And then it just started growing exponentially from there.
And then you bring people on, they're coming into a system and they have no idea if it's been going on for a week or 5 years. They just slide into the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, you have 3 pharmacies.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're opening the third, Lord willing, later this month.
The clinic is that, or is that already open? So
Branson Drugs is open. It has a clinic inside of it. It has an urgent care inside of it.
But you have another clinic somewhere.
I have Clinic Pharmacy.
Clinic Pharmacy.
Yeah, I've owned that since January 2018.
And then don't you have another one, Fruitport or something like that?
Fairmont Drug Company is a brand new location. It's a new build, so new construction.
The one they tore down the dry cleaner on.
That's right. So I tore down, it was a laundromat. Yeah. It was actually a laundromat and a bootlegger. And we tore down the laundromat and the bootlegger's
What's a bootlegger?
house.
A whiskey making?
Well, I don't think they made it, but they'd go to the liquor store and buy it in bulk and then sell it by the shot. And the only reason I knew that is because when I cleaned everything up to get it ready for demo, that house was full of all kinds of stuff. And I started asking around, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's the bootlegger. And I said, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. That's good to know. Thank you.
Our pharmacy I found the old deed to our pharmacy or something back before we bought it. This is like 1920, and I think it was a church, and they said that we could never, and we don't sell alcohol now, but they said you can never sell alcohol on it. That was like the...
Really?
That was like, yeah.
It's in your lease, or it was in the offer to purchase.
In the thing. Yeah. So the third one's coming along. How many do you want?
Oh, I wouldn't be willing to put a cap on it.
Give me a figure.
100.
You want 100 stores.
Yeah. See, what I've learned in this business is volume is key. Okay, so there's people, I hear this argument all the time that, you've got to focus on quality over quantity. And that is true. I agree 100%. But the way that you get a better cost of goods in our industry today is through volume-based pricing.
Right. Most people would seem to know the damages of having too much inventory, too much invested, no cash flow, you go out of business. When people hear about efficiencies, the one thing they don't want to do is make their life tougher. And one of those things that make things tougher is in their mind, it's like, crap, I ran out of this, or this didn't come in time, or Mrs. Smith's going to be upset with me, and so on. They don't believe it can happen. What percent, and I know that you do a ton of sync and so on, but out of just the population that's coming in off the street to say, oh, you're a new pharmacy, I want to fill my prescription today, what percent in the most efficient system can you fill their full prescription that day, assuming that it's a average prescription? In other words, what percent of the customers that walk in off the street are going to leave with a full prescription that day versus a partial prescription?
At one of my stores?
Yeah.
97%.
3% they might have to come back, or can you stop back tomorrow or whatever?
Well, no, that's not even fair, because let me consider the numbers in a store like ours. I mean, we may have 3 IOUs, 4 IOUs in a day.
Out of 600.
Yeah, out of 600, we may have 3 or 4 IOUs a day.
So less than 1%.
Yeah. People off the street, just because they've never been in a store, doesn't mean they're going to want a drug that nobody's ever been on before. So essentially, this is the mindset, the model, right?
Yeah.
So if your patients are in sync, you're running them days ahead of pickup if you're doing it right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the only way to do it. And then your reorder points are based on that logic that you don't order it until you've ran it until they need it, right?
Yeah.
But you still know the drugs that are staples of your community.
Yeah.
So you still keep a day's supply. Sometimes I keep 0-day supply, but for the most part, you live somewhere between 1 to 2 to 3 days supply, depending on whether or not you're open in the weekends and depending on the store. I don't advise a store to have any more than a 3-day supply of inventory. Like this store that I'm sitting in had 36 turns of inventory last year. Little to nothing on our shelves, if possible. And the more expensive a drug is, the more aggressive we get in it. So most of that stuff that you're talking about, where that person that's walking in off the street, 9 times out of 10, those drugs are cheap. So I'm okay with having some extra lisinopril, amlodipine, furosemide. I'm okay with those things because those aren't dollars tied up. But when you get into drugs where the price per unit, price per milligram or each starts climbing up to say $10 or higher, you need to be more aggressive, because that's where 90% of your revenue or your inventory dollars live, are in those items. Those things that cost, the 1% of 1%, that furosemide that's less than a penny a pill.
Right.
I don't care how big a bottle you have on your shelf. I don't care if you have 4 of them on your shelf, because it's like $5 sitting over there. But if you've got 10 bottles of Janumet and 3 Harvonies over there in the corner just in case, then you're fat on inventory and you need to cut it down.
And none of this happens without sync?
It can all happen without sync, but you can only get to a certain level of efficiency without it. Because, and it doesn't have to be sync in the way that you consider it. So I know I have a friend who has a very, very well-run store, and he does not use sync at all. But he'll go into his system, and he will look at what he filled in that same calendar week in the previous month, and then he will consider that when he's placing his orders. So he will load up. Now, my problem with that is that's really, it's more of a manual process.
Yeah.
I don't care what software you're on right now, whether it's Pioneer or any other one. aside from a few of the smaller ones, they all have the technology inside of them, not to mention the countless numbers of external platforms that can help you with sync now, so that you
Right.
can see what you're going to be doing. The reason that I love Pioneer so much is because I refuse to use all these different platforms. I want everything under one roof, and I can do that inside of that Pioneer system. And so it's all right there on one screenshot, and two, it can correlate everything together. As far as like even setting your reorder points, you can ask it to consider sync patients versus non-sync, and it will adjust those inventory or those reorder points based on that.
I suck at sync. I'm a 3-time failure.
Really? No,
Yeah.
I would see you as being super efficient at it, brother.
No, I suck at it.
So what's your shortcoming?
Laziness.
Now, it will work you, because here's the thing, and this is what I have to talk to my staff about. In a traditional pharmacy setting without sync, the trigger is the bell ringing when the front door opens or when the phone rings, right? So that means now I go to work. Or you look in your eScript queue or your faxes, and there's something for you to do. So that's when you work.
Yeah.
When you have a sync population like we have, you never get to let your hair down. So when you come in, you go to work, and you work as hard and as fast as you can. When you walk back in from lunch, hard and as fast as you can. And when it's 10 minutes till time to close, you still need to be working as hard and as fast as you can. Because what tends to happen, and I see this in a lot of different stores, let's say that they're working on a day-by-day basis on sync, and you tell them that you want them to stay 3 or 4 days ahead. They'll get 2 days ahead, and all of a sudden they'll let their hair down, and they'll relax a little bit because they're ahead. And the next thing you know, they're on the day of, or they're a day ahead again, and and it catches back up with them, because the time never stops, unfortunately. So tomorrow is coming for most of us every day. So you have to continue to work around the clock, more, so to speak, on the clock, to make sure that you continue to stay ahead.
Should be music to people's ears.
Oh yeah. Now I'm talking about technicians within stores, like in my stores. This is something that I've dealt with, where they feel like they can relax. No, an owner is going to be super motivated because they want to see that field number climb in their pharmacy every single day.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Right.
Because, not in every case, but in most cases, the GP climbs with the field, So, and then too, when you have the volume, and when you have a significant pool of prescriptions that you can deal with, that's when you can start focusing on, well, not then, but then you can really begin to focus on finding that more quality prescription in there, and you learn how to look at your reports and figure out what needs to happen, and which plans make the most sense, and when AWP matters, and all of those things.
The quality prescription, as in something you're making a good profit on that you want to repeat by doing some marketing and things like that, or
maybe you've got other patients who are on the same plan, and they're using a drug from the same therapeutic class, and you can put them on a drug that will result in the same copay for them, that would likely provide a better therapeutic outcome for them, and the pharmacy makes a higher gross profit. That's a win-win-win.
What hour of your week do you say, this sucks? Do you have one of those? Do you have a Friday morning at 10 a.m. where you have to do X and you say, this sucks?
No, I love what I do. I have
You do?
a ball. Yeah, I do. I probably love it too much. It causes problems sometimes. But yeah, no, I mean, every now and again you get beat down. Sometimes you just want to. There's a pharmacist on some of the boards. I don't know her name, but I think she lives in Costa Rica, and I'll see her sometimes, and it looks to me, sometimes I just want to be like her, and I just want to say, you know what, the heck with it, I'm moving to Costa Rica. But I just have so much fun doing what I do. I like working with the staff. I like meeting people like you and Steve and and Joe and some of the other guys that we met the other night. And I like learning. I think the consulting has been one of my favorite things, because I just really enjoy problem solving and figuring stuff out. And so I'd figured out a lot of my problems here. Well, a lot of my pharmacy problems. I'd figured out a lot of those here. And I kind of get bored, to be honest with you.
You go from an entrepreneur to a manager.
Exactly. And I was a manager for a long time. And now I have some really good managers that work with me and that I get to work with. And I like letting them run the stores and take care of those. And I want to create a new program. I want to go out and garner new business, or I want to find a new opportunity for us, and then I want to figure all those things out. I want to cut the path through the woods and say, all right, everybody, this is how we're going to do this, and take them down that path. That's what I love doing.
You're going to go to 100 stores.
Well, who knows, but yeah.
All right, 200 stores.
Attaboy, there you go, Mike, my guy.
So you're going to be there. And then you're obviously not signing up for shifts at Fairmont. You're not going to go sign up for a shift there. You've got all the managers and so on.
Right.
But now you love consulting, but I imagine, let's just say your consulting grows to 100 stores a week or something like that.
It already is 100 stores. Not a week, but 100 stores, yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
But you love that consulting, but if you follow the same model of 100 pharmacies, you're not going to be consulting anymore. You're going to be teaching your 10 consultants how to, and now maybe you find joy in that, but you've just worked yourself out of a joyful thing that you like. What do you do with that?
There's always problems to be solved, Mike. And I've already started doing that. I'm already grooming another pharmacist. Actually, 2 pharmacists, come to think of it, to help with the consulting.
So it's not so much the consulting you love, it's the problem solving.
Exactly.
And if I told you you're not going to talk to any individuals at the store level, you're going to be dealing with problems and issues with your 10 consultants, you're okay with that?
As long as I get to solve problems. I do enjoy the aha moments. So, even now, as a pharmacy owner with the stores that I have and all the other businesses and things I have, I still go make deliveries. I still will go and deliver a prescription to a patient because I enjoy talking to those patients. So If I had 100 stores and I had a consulting company with 1,000 clients, I'd probably still go deliver Miss Jones's, Lisinopril to her, just so I could stand there and talk to her at her front door while Jeopardy's on in the background every now and again.
Yeah, you might do a little consulting project if it's in your blood still.
Pick up a store. Maybe I want to go down to, I got a store I'm doing, actually I'm starting live stores again. I'm going down to Louisiana here next month at the end of the month. And maybe I want to go to Los Angeles and see my friends at Mickey Fine, or to Beverly Hills. And maybe I'm going to fly out and see Jeff Gross and his crew out there. You never know. So I don't want to be pigeonholed in anything that I do that I am a staff pharmacist. Because if you think about my career, I started working at a hardware store, and and now I'm owning these stores and doing these things. I don't ever want to be just that guy that I was somewhere along that way, and I don't want to be stuck there. I want to be able. The reason that I love what I do so much is because it's ever changing, ever evolving. It's always different. There's always new challenges. If it ever got to a point where every day it was going to be exactly the same thing, I wouldn't enjoy it at all. And it would be monotonous. It wouldn't be fun. And I would go find something else.
That's one of the reasons why I enjoy these podcasts, because I just can't. I always say it's because I'm lazy. I'm kind of joking. It's because I get bored, I think.
Yeah, no, it is.
You look at some professions that seem so glamorous, like, let's say a singer, or let's say a comedian even.
Right.
Yeah, you got the audience in your hand, and you're seeing their face light up and things, but you're repeating the same joke or the same song 200 times or something like that.
Give me a puzzle, give me a riddle, give me something that I've got to figure out and make it challenging, and I'm happy. That's where I want to be. There's
a book I read a couple years ago now. It's How Not to Give a F, the F word, how not to give it. And the guy's premise there, and it's not a new thought probably, but I like how he put it. He said, life is all about problem solving. The goal, though, is to have less pressure with the problem solving. In other words, it's not real fun to have a problem be where are you going to get your next meal,
Right.
or is your kid going to have a bed to sleep in tonight?
Yeah,
you know,
that's scary.
But even when you're like 90, you just don't sit around. Then your problems are, do I make pumpkin pie or apple pie? And then you spend the whole day going to the supermarket and you call your friends and you call your kids and say, I don't think the apples are very good. And I'm very upset about, you get into it.
Right, yeah.
But ultimately the problem is not life or death. But solving problems is fun.
Oh no, it's what I get out of bed for.
It's fun.
Yeah. And it's not, what I like about it is it's not black and white, that's the stuff that I think I'm really good at. And that's the stuff that the consulting it's really what it's based on. When it's not a black and white situation, when there's some gray, then you need to figure out that gray area. That's what I'm really good at. So, and so, yeah, if I could do this and I don't want to say until retirement, because I don't ever plan to retire. I think retire is deciding what you want to do that day, kind of thing.
Sure.
But,
yeah. Right.
When I'm 90, like you said, the situation that I want to be in is do I go help a consulting client? Do I go to a pharmacy? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? I want to have. Yeah. I want to have those options.
The freedom to do what you feel like that day, but you're still solving problems.
Exactly. And I think because I see too many people that retire unfortunately, this probably happens to your patients, and you've seen it happen, is they retire and 2 months later they're dead.
They die.
They die because they walk away from their job, or they walk away from whatever they've been doing for the past 30 years.
Right.
And they just go and just sit there and that's the end of it for them. And that's just terrible. And, I did worry about that at one time with me, as far as like how I work and all of those things happening and not really having the number of hobbies and things that I used to have, because I was forced to work a lot to get my stores up and going.
Yeah, right.
But if you stop and you think about it, my hobbies now are consulting. Helping other owners be successful. I still love to do the things that hunt and fish, camp, and all those kinds of things that I like doing, but my hobbies just aren't the same. I still have hobbies. They're just not the same. And I'm one of those lucky people that can honestly say that my hobbies are what I do every single day.
I've always explained the freedom that I like to have, and sometimes that ebbs and flows depending on how much the pharmacy needs me, not in a creative way, but just in like a lazy work that I don't like doing kind of way. But I've always said that my joy is not the freedom to not work, but the freedom to work on what I want to work on. That's what you're saying, where you can get up and do this or that or whatever.
I'm finally, I'm starting to get to a place like that. It's taken a long time, and two, I don't like to spend money. Like I don't spend a whole lot of money. So I told you how we would run staffing, where we would wait until the train was going off the tracks, and so I was doing that with pharmacists for the longest time, where I was working full time, and I worked 6 days a week for I don't know how long, for just years.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned, you were taking deliveries till
10 o'clock at night and doing all that stuff. Get up in the morning and do it, everything, and you finally start to realize that you are the rate limiting factor for your business, and when I finally got there, it was I guess it was about 2 years ago. I finally got there, and I said, you know what? When I'm not out here and I'm somewhere else working on the business, whether it's developing something or figuring something out or marketing or whatever, I'm doing more for the longevity of my business when I'm not on that bench working. And I talk to owners like this now. I've got a particular client in my mind right now from California who is super bright. She's just brilliant. And I keep telling her every time I talk to her, I'm like, you have got to stop micromanaging your store. You need to take a step back and empower your people and let them do, what you teach them to do. And then you go out and do these other great things. And I'm like coaching her along. And I'm even telling her, you need to call Travis and get with him and let him help you and all this, And when I finally realized that, that's when things really started to grow. And then the people thing came into play, where you're talking about. So I had to go out and start hiring pharmacists, not only because of growth in the stores, but now I had to replace myself. And I actually ended up, I've hired 3 pharmacists this year. And just to prepare for all of these things and make sure that nothing was going to suffer. And so my payroll is heavier than it's been before. But the thinking is, well, if consulting is going to pull me away, I don't need to let my own store suffer. So I had to consider that. We had to plan for the growth of the new store. We also have to make sure that none of the staff thinks, well, Joe doesn't care about us anymore because he's consulting. Instead, it's, well, he's giving us this extra help to make sure we're okay. And that's, so.
As things start taking off kind of exponentially, you realize that came from that work you did, and you can begin to put like an hourly return on your hours, where maybe you didn't see it happening when you were scratching on the notepad waiting for Miss Brenda to acclimate for a few months. But now you can say, hey, that 5 hours I spent back in 2017, that one Saturday, that's like the 10th of my business now. And if you put the return on that into those 10 hours, you're like, I should probably repeat that and pay someone else. It seems like too much money to be there.
It's not. I'm telling you, I my first big expenditure that I spent on like development and education, all those things, was through Amina Abu Bakr and Olivia
I've
Bentley.
heard a lot about Amina.
Oh, Amina's fantastic. She's fantastic. And my first big class was with her. And I walked away from that class going, wow, there's so much I did not know that I just got. And I've actually been back. It's called the Avon Institute. I've actually been back to the Avon Institute and did a 3-day class with her there to learn more about some of the things that she teaches. And
she's in pharmacy.
She is in pharmacy, and she does a lot of, I won't call them collaborative practices, but she can teach you how to use your pharmacist to help your area physicians in ways that you could not imagine. I saw it there, when I was with her, and I said, you know what, this is so much value. And I was away from my store for 3 days, and away from all of, everything for 3 days. And you worry about that, it's like, okay, I usually only reserve this for family vacations and things, but here I am doing this. But you walk out of there and you realize that was worth exponentially more than what it costs to be here, what it costs for a PRN pharmacist to fill in, which in our case we didn't have to, but theoretically, just tremendously more than what it cost. If you get too short-sighted or you get that tunnel vision and you only focus on the little bit of money that it would cost to do that, you're really holding yourself back on the potential return for what could come from it. It happened when I purchased the second store, when I bought Clinic Pharmacy, and now I had 2 stores that I had to figure out how to manage. And what I realized is I wasn't always at that store, but yet it was okay. It was growing. It was being successful. The patients loved the staff. Everything was good. And I'm like, so things can't exist without Joe being the only thing around it. And it kind of gave me that perspective. And so I started making some of those subtle changes here at Branson, where I was away a little more, and by away I mean I just wasn't on the front counter more. And I kept doing that subtly and investing in things, figuring things out. And before you know it, you look back at your P&Ls, your profit and loss, or your balance sheet, or what have you, and you realize that you're growing, and in some cases you're growing even faster. And I said, this makes more sense. I mean, since we've done these things, we've been really involved in Troy Medicare and being able to do that. We did a much better job with Medicare open enrollment this past year. We've got a 340B agreement now. We all these things that if I just was that bench pharmacist with tunnel vision on only the patient standing in front of me every day, that would have gone right over the top of my head, and I never would have seen that opportunity pass me by.
Yeah, for sure. You said that if you start consulting more, or as you started consulting more, you'd bring those 3 pharmacists in this year to make sure one of the reasons I think you said is to make sure that the staff wasn't, I'm putting words into your mouth, I think, but maybe feeling overworked or that you've left them alone and so on.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't have that feeling, though, when you went to the clinic for those days. Is that because people maybe understood what you were doing there more? How does that differ from you being gone consulting and feeling, I'm putting words in your mouth, but maybe a little guilty like that?
It's a good question. No. It wasn't so much guilt. It was because when I'm at clinic, I still work there some, I'm still available. Because,
I see.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So it's
by a phone or
voice over IP phones, or we have VPN tunnels between the stores, so they'll still call me. But when I'm with a client, I want to be very, very respectful of that client's time. So
understood.
So like right now, I'm with you. There's a sign outside my door that says, do not disturb. It's a door hanger that I use when I'm with a client, and that's because I would hate to be on a session with you. Let's say that in this situation you were my consultant. I wouldn't want you to keep getting up and going over and helping somebody else do something or working on your own stuff while you're working with me. So now I really am unavailable during those times. And when I do on-sites, it's the same thing where you're gone, 2 or 3 days because of travel. During travel time I'm available, but for the most part when I'm in that store, I just request that they ask themselves, what would Joe do? And they solve the problem.
On those days that you're gone, are you like 4 hours between checking your phone or 8 hours? In other words, if you're in a meeting at 8 o'clock, you might go till 11 while you're in the bathroom and take a look, or how long do you go?
I'm pretty good about my phone. I avoid being disrespectful with it. Like I don't like it when I'm talking to someone and they're checking their text messages the whole time I'm with them. But we have an intranet that we use for all of our stores. It was something else that we invested in that's helped us tremendously. And those urgent messages actually will appear on my phone. So, I'm seeing those things anytime that it's respectfully convenient. So I wouldn't say that it's more than even an hour. And if I see something and it's like, hey, FYI, we need to talk about this when you get back, then I'm not even paying attention to that. But, we had a guy accidentally almost drove through the front of one of my stores last year. That's something that I'm going to have to step to the back and call my store about this, okay? My building's going to fall down.
And that you might see in 15 minutes, like maybe while you're sitting in a room with Julie and Tom, and then Julie and Tom start talking to each other, you might take a look at your phone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you might even say, hey, listen, if I get an emergency call, please, don't think I'm being disrespectful. And I think, you got to remember, these people that I'm consulting for, they're independent pharmacy owners, most of them, or operators. They know exactly what I'm dealing with. It's not going to surprise them if somebody comes in to rob my store at gunpoint. They'd be mad at me if I didn't jump out and go call my store and find out what was going on.
We have a really new staff at the store. The whole team is quite new. But I tell them, I say, guys, I'm not going to be looking at my phone. If you need me, call me. And they never call me. But I said, call me, because then I will tell Joe. I'll say, Joe, the phone's ringing. I never get a phone call.
Right.
So let me look. I think it's something might be more important.
Exactly. And I would say, absolutely answer that phone. I'm the same way.
In about 2015, I hired a new layer of managers, and I spent a lot of time working at home. But before that, I was doing probably too much. And I would want time in my office where kind of the same thing, where it's like, I want to talk to this, either a new employee or a customer or something, or just a family member or whatever. And so what I did, I came up with this method, and I'm not sure if it was good or not. I think it worked for me. But I would put an egg timer on the outside of my door. And it would be a 3-minute delay doorbell, basically. They'll come up and they'll see they've got 3 minutes before they're going to make me get up and come to the door and say, what do you need? In most cases, they say, I'm not going to wait 3 minutes. Somebody else can answer it, and they'll go away.
That's a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Joe, in 10 years, you've got 200 pharmacies.
Right.
You've got 1,000 clients on your coaching, and you got 10 pharmacists or 10 consultants working there. 10 years now, is it like, I'm going to do another 3 projects, or is it just shining all those up?
No, I keep doing different things.
What's your next one then?
I'm opening a laundromat next month.
You just tore one down.
Yeah, I know. So find a need, fill a need, brother. I tore the laundromat down that was where the pharmacies being built, and I felt like the town would benefit from a nice new modern laundromat. So I built a laundromat, and I've probably got half a dozen business models in my mind that I know will work. And I enjoy. A friend of mine says I like new shiny things. So and they're not the type of new shiny things that most people like. Like I don't go buy new cars and those kinds of things. I'll drive a truck till the wheels fall off. No, actually, I shouldn't say that because I did that and then I fixed them and kept driving it. But no, I'm not that kind of guy, But I just enjoy investing in people and investing in ideas and seeing things succeed. And it's not about the money even. I get asked that. It's really not about that. It's about the doing. It's about the unknown and solving those problems and making those things successful.
Solving the problems.
So there was I call her a friend. She's started as a client. She's someone that I really like talking with. She's an owner out in Colorado, and she posted something on a group the other day and asked about, would you have more stores? And I said, absolutely yes, just bring them on. And I looked down through the comments, and probably 75% of the responses in that same thread said, absolutely not, no way. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I would hate to be someone who either didn't, and I shouldn't speak for these people because I don't know that they don't enjoy what they do.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they love what they do.
Right.
But, I would prefer to be the type of person that loves what they're doing so much and they found ways to be successful and they figured out systems so that they could keep doing what they're doing and expand it and share that with the world. That's who I would rather be.
So now you got all the things I talked about, plus another of your 6 ideas.
Who knows what it is, yeah.
The week is so long, okay? So at some point, you're in your Joe chair, the Joe throne chair. You've got like a president of each of these corporations, and you've got like 15 presidents reporting to you, and you're basically saying, yes, no, yes. You know what I mean? Would owning 1,000 companies be too many? Or would you have 1,000 presidents that report to 10 this and go all the way up?
So I'm thinking like about 3 different things right now. Number one is Richard Branson. Okay. You know who Richard Branson?
I know Richard, yes.
Virgin Airlines,
Yes.
Virgin Mobile, all those things.
Right.
Think about that guy. That guy, he owns like 300 and some companies. And whenever you see him, he's one of the happiest people in the world at all times. I mean,
You got to let your hair grow out, though. You can't keep cutting your hair, though.
I think he's got better hair than me. But, if you look at a guy like that, I mean, he loves his life. He loves what he's doing. And entrepreneurs go to him all the time with these great, fantastic ideas and want him to help him start their company. And he brings them into the fold, and they're another virgin company, and they do well. And then I think about that, and he loves what he's doing. Then I think about the book, The 5 Levels of Leadership.
Okay.
I don't know if John Maxwell, right? And
okay, yeah.
So a level 5, you're describing a level 5 leader, basically. A level 5 leader is a person who develops people that develop other people.
Gotcha.
And I'm not a level 5 leader. Okay, I'm like a level 3. Maybe. So with some people, I'm a level 3, and I want to be a level 4, and I'd love to be a level 5 leader one day. I mean, that is a life goal of mine. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got a lot of things that I need to work on to be that, but I think if I'm going to be that guy that you're describing, I need to be a level 5 leader. I don't think that I could be that person and I could be successful or even be happy doing what you're describing unless I was a level 5. Because in my mind, even with the 5, 6, 7 businesses that I have now, I'm still doing those things as a level 3 in most cases because the week is still long enough. you know.
Yep.
But if you're going to grow and you're going to have the 200 stores and you're going to have all those things, I have got to personally develop. The other thing is there's two other books that I'll kind of lump together. One's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and the other one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in both stories, there are these parables, and basically, well, in one story it's parables, the other story it's like the kid's childhood, or the author's childhood, where there were these people, and that's what they did. They owned multiple businesses, and they had entrusted people that would take care of their businesses. They valued their opinion. They had a relationship in which they asked for and appreciated feedback from all of their managers and leaders and within their organizations. But there was also the understanding that the owner was still in charge. So in my case, if I've gotten to be a level 5 leader, I like to think that it will be a lot less yes and no's. It will be more like a small core group of people that are around me that are responsible for the various entities, and we sit down and we discuss things and we talk them out and we come to a consensus, or we agree and commit. I mean, we disagree and commit if we can't agree.
If somebody has one pharmacy that's running smoothly, you're not making decisions all day. You're kind of like on the airline pilot coming in for a landing and just a little bit of this and that. Once in a while you'll say no. Once in a while you'll say that. Let's not go that route. But that's once a week or once a month or something.
Otherwise you're just flying the plane and the staff around you is doing the thing. And that's what it would feel like to be an effective type of manager that I would love to be in order to be able to accomplish all these life goals that I have. You'll have to be that even within that big global organization. You'll still have to be that way because things still need to be, and that's again my whole model of efficiency in creating processes instead of depending on people, because people change. You just said your whole staff's roughly changed. Things happen.
Yeah.
We had an employee that just left us, and I'm heartbroken because of it, but she moved to another state. So her and her family moved away, and she was a great employee. We invested in her. Right up until like the weeks before she left, we were still teaching her and paying for her to do seminars and classes and things, because better to invest in her and she leave than not invest in them and they stay.
Always be pushing forward, and some are going to go, but your culture has to be that way.
They need to know what's going on for sure.
If someone said you had to go to any of the 50 states, would you be just as comfortable and confident doing the whole pharmacy thing wherever you are?
From which perspective? As an owner or as a staff pharmacist?
As an owner. Like if someone said, Joe, I'm going to spin the wheel and I'm going to have you keep about your same plan, try to get to 3 stores and try to do consulting and do this and maybe do that. Would you say, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. I think I can do it.
Yeah, I think I could do what I do anywhere in the country. I think when I first got started, I do think that I had somewhat of a benefit with not somewhat. I had a definite benefit of where I got started with my first store, because it was like small town, rural, southern, just kind of fit my personality. I mean, the store's 20 minutes from the house I grew up in. And so I knew the community, I knew the people. And so it helped me accelerate it when I got in and got situated. But really, I don't care where you are in the world. People appreciate, people that are good to them. They appreciate people who are caring and considerate. So yes, and luckily, drugs don't change a whole lot from one part of the country to the next.
Yeah.
And most of our doctors now are from everywhere, all over the world anyway, just like our pharmacists are. So I think it's become more global, more universal now. So I think I could do it anywhere.
All of a sudden, hurricanes come and wipe everything out, and you get all the insurance money from your stores, and you're sitting there with no physical locations. You've got a customer base. You've got a client base on the consulting. What's your 1-year plan? Building up a few pharmacies again?
Those are going to be some beautiful stores if I could get that insurance money. They'd be different. What I've thought about doing a few times is, you know how important sync is to me. I have thought of a more centralized model, and then run my stores like a concierge desk. So, and there's some state laws and matters that would hinder some of these things, but it would almost be as if you would go into that store. It would be super individualized, super personalized, and most of all that high volume sync and all those things could occur in the background, so that the pharmacists within the stores could just do what it is that they wanted to do when they first went to pharmacy school, which is care for their patients. But the problem with that, and this is kind of frustrating for me, because I've tried this. If I pull patients out of a store and move them to a centralized facility, the good folks at some of our wholesalers and the good folks at the DEA and all of these other all these other organizations, they don't consider your organization as a whole. I guess they could if you set things up structurally in the right way from a corporate perspective. Apparently, I don't have it that way. So if I start moving like a whole ton of patients out of a lower volume store, put them in a centralized model, and then just distribute from there, the wholesalers are going to say, well, wait a minute. Now, this store is buying this, but they've stopped buying all of these things, and it's all going over here to that other place. They can't wrap their head around the model that would, in my opinion, be better for the industry. Because if we could free up the traditional bottling or packaging of medications and just leave the pharmacist and staff within a store, leave them there solely for the purposes of patient care, just the direct interaction, then imagine how much outcomes could improve. Because, I can't afford to put extra pharmacists at every store just for the sake of the patient care aspect and leave someone, because, our model right now does not allow us to be reimbursed for that direct patient care in most cases. I mean, there are opportunities, but it's not widespread. So I can't justify that additional payroll. But if I could pull everything together under a centralized roof and maybe even deliver every bit of it, and you know how I feel about deliveries, how much I love it. If I could just deliver almost all of it and then allow my pharmacist to just act as that medical expert that is readily available, walk in, find a way to bill for it, that's what I would love to see.
So they'll allow some of that, like a central fill or something, but they don't let you then dispense from there. You probably have to bring it back and dispense it from that other building or something. Well,
unless you were delivering it, then you'd almost be like a mail order facility, and then you could distribute from there. I mean, I think there's chains. That's one of the things that chains do in order to try to manage payroll within stores. So, I don't love chains at all. Don't get me wrong, but there's some good ideas that are probably out there that exist within them, to where we could free pharmacists up to be able to spend more time with their patients. The only problem is if you're the one store owner, you can't. It's harder for you to compete with that. So there will be owners that may listen to this and say, I think that's a terrible idea, because they don't have multiple stores and they're not able to do those things. But I mean,
they don't have the economies of scale, but they can have the same look by putting a brick wall down there in the middle of their store and having
exactly,
having all the ruckus going on in back and having the nice calm people out front kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen stores there was this one store in particular in North Carolina that's just a beautiful building, beautiful store, and you go in and they literally have this round that's like a reception area right in the middle of their waiting area. And the last time I was in there, and I've only been, well, I should say the only time I've ever been in there, there was a pharmacist seated at that desk, and they were verifying prescriptions at that desk, and they greeted me when I walked in the door. And that's the kind of, I think that's what they're going for there. I don't know if they figured it all out or not.
If they got it out or not.
Yeah, but I was real impressed with how progressive they were with that model. Because, but at the same time, not every pharmacist wants to be able to be at arm's reach with a patient.
Yeah.
Because they're going to tell you they can't get anything done because they're dealing with patients.
They have to
That's why I said I want them to just be the concierge, not also be that production pharmacist trying to verify all those prescriptions.
Sure. Well, Joe, god darn it, we could talk all day. I know with your having your multi-businesses, you got to actually do some consulting this afternoon still. No, you get to do the consulting.
That a baby. There you go. So yeah, I get the opportunity to help another motivated owner here in just a couple minutes. So, and Mike, I tell you, man, I have really enjoyed this. I enjoy just sitting down and talking with people that love pharmacy as much as I do, and love, talking with folks and learning like you do. And, it's truly, truly, truly been a pleasure, my friend.
I'm looking forward to many more conversations in the future.
I say we do this all the time. Absolutely, brother.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Have a good session.